So, welcome to episode 2 of Peer Review. Today we've got just me and Pauline.
Hey.
And we're going to be talking about security and porn. So, since around 100 AD, we've been leaving traces of our existence around. What happened in Pompeii was that they had people writing on the walls, writing graffiti, and it was just stuff like, on April 19th, I made bread, and basically, we've had this kind of thing, like posting on walls, right, like Facebook, that's been going on for many years, for thousands of years. People just leaving traces of themselves. But nowadays, the amount of little data bytes that we leave has increased, and it's increasing a lot. I was reading before, between 2010 and 2015, the amount of data that we made quadrupled, and it's quadrupled what we had in 2003, which a Google executive said was 4 exabytes, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, but we're making more and more data, there's more and more traces of us existing, and just talk. And so these data bytes, they can be used by advertisers to figure out who you are, right? So, for example, if you go on a website, you have history. And then from that history, if you look at, for example, the University of Wollongong, if that was in your history, then you could assume that the person that had looked at that website probably lives in Wollongong and is a student of that university. Therefore, they probably have liberal political views because they're in a university. Therefore, we should advertise them this product, which they're likely to buy.
And does it have anything to do with cookies? Is that on the internet and stuff?
Yeah, so...
how does it work?
How does it work? Well, I see this is a part 1 of 2 parts.
Oh.
And to get into cookies, we'll talk to Nathan about it.
So much suspense. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not going to talk about that. He's way better at that than me.
Nathan.
So anyway, basically, if you're looking at porn, that's history that can be tracked. That's bits of information that can be traced to you, but it's really inconsequential in Australia or France if your history gets taken out. There's this meme that if your internet history is released to the public, your life is going to end. But really, it's pretty normal to look at porn, and it's not going to have any consequences. The real consequences are that your behavior is predicted by these algorithms, and then your behavior is preceded by the algorithms. What content you're delivered will predict what you're going to do next. So if you're advertised a piece of clothing, you will buy that piece of clothing. The advertising comes before your actions.
I thought you were going to give an example with porn references.
Yeah.
I'm slightly disappointed.
Well, yeah, okay. Yeah. I think we should talk more about porn, actually. And what it means for women's body images.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, we have a state of affairs right now where women are really at high risk of anxiety in the modern day, and I think that part of that is because of an unrealistic expectation of reality, which, goes back to our last episode on how we live in this hyper reality where you're expected to look so super beautiful.
Yeah, but I think it's actually something that exists in that has always existed, like different, just depending on the time where and the place where you are living, you have different beauty standards. Like for instance, um, during the like 16th century, it was like a beautiful woman was super curvy and stuff, and like even what we consider today fat. And then at the end of the 19th, we're supposed to be like like Kate Moss, like super skinny. And now it's like you have to be curvy, but at the same time you have to be thick. It's like so complicated, and it just changes all the time. So I think beauty standards are not something new, but it might be more like important now in the sense that because we have Instagram and we have all this social media and stuff, it's easier to like have access to these beauty standards. And I think it's not about having access; it's more to be exposed to them. Because every time you open this app, you just have so many pictures of like super beautiful women. But I think it's also a bit hard to take some distance from these pictures because you can see them, and even though you know they can be like photoshopped and or that it only represents like 1% of the population, it's still I think it still has an impact on your perception of yourself and of bodies in general. Because even when you're aware that it has an impact and it's bad and you shouldn't compare yourself, the fact that you see these pictures and these images all the time, it will have an impact even though you don't really want it. Like unconsciously you're gonna be impacted and you can start comparing yourself. Like even if it's not in the sense like, oh, I don't really like my body, it's just, oh, I don't have this type of body.
Yeah,
So,
and it's the affordance of the medium of Instagram. What happens is you put a picture up and then your friends and your peers rate you. And that like directly contributes to your self-image, like your opinion of your peers. So you're given some rating based on how you look, which is compared to like the most beautiful people because your friends are also looking at them on Instagram. And then so it directly affects how you think that you should look. You want to try and look like the person with the most likes, to try and get the most social credit, so that you can be you can have the highest social standing. It's like human nature to want to have high social credit.
Yeah, and I think it's not only about body types and stuff like that, it's also about representation. Because if you pay attention, I think that all these pictures of super hot girls, like basically I think they more or less all look the same. And it's a real issue, like, because it's really hard to keep in mind that these girls with these body types and these faces and stuff, they represent like 1% of the population, and it's not possible to have that like morphology, and you can't just look like someone. And also the thing is, it's even worse I think when you're like, for instance, like dark skin or something. Like I'm not concerned, but I was talking to this friend who was telling me, well, I'm lucky because so I'm black but I'm light skinned, so I'm less discriminated against my skin color than dark skinned girls, but still they're like you don't really see them on social media. I mean they exist but you don't see them that much. And I think it's also a matter of representation because when you can't see yourself like in the like public sphere, it's like really hard to like accept who you are and stuff. So I think it's even worse. So I think there are like several things involved. Like it's about your body image, your mental health, but also representation. Like we need more Asian or African or like Latin American women. Like we need everyone to be represented.
Yeah, and it's not even 1% that's represented. It's 0.001% that have been amplified because they have millions and millions of followers. That one image is amplified.
So you can see them even more.
Yeah, exactly. So they get a lot of exposure, but they're really rare people. So you can see, like even, there's a few influencers that have this,
Mm.
like, you know, by some miracle of genetics, have these crazy body types that are really attractive. You can think that there's a lot of people like that, but it's really just an amplification of that
and
small
also
signal.
and also I think it impacts what we find attractive. Like because you see these images all the time, it might change your it will change your perception of your own and also other people's like appearances and bodies, and so it might also change your expectations and your tastes. But the thing is, like many of them are like unrealistic. So
well, there's a guy, Marty Klein, I read on The Atlantic. He said that the issues with porn are a moral panic. Like, he said that, we have to understand that porn is just a space for fantasies and it's completely separate from reality. So it has no bearing on what you should think that you should look like or what you find attractive.
So it's like any social media, like Instagram and stuff.
Yeah, but the issue is, I don't believe that because you have a generation of kids, me included, that aren't taught the benefit of relationships or like sex, or that there's more to relationships than sex. That you just learn everything from porn, and that's it. So you can't make decisions on what you find attractive or what you want when you don't know anything.
Yeah, of course. And like related to that, I know that in France it's a real issue because we're supposed to have these sexual education classes that basically never happened, and so basically kids are being educated, if we can say that, by watching porn videos, and so basically they don't have the ability to, like at least when they see that when they're like too young, they don't have the ability to realize that it's not real life, and they know nothing about all that surrounds all the things that are around sexuality, so consent, pleasure, and stuff, and
like the value of hugging and kissing, and
or just like consent, like
it's not
so
videos.
important, and like with all the Me Too things, we just realize that many people that it's so hard to like draw a line between what is consent and what is not, and that sometimes it's blurred, so it's really necessary to make things clear, and that it's fine to say no, even when a second ago you said yes, and it's really hard to teach that to people that both like to teach people to say yeah, you have the right to say no, and to teach people when someone says no, it's a no. So it's also something that's really important.
To be a good person.
Yeah, and when you're having a sexual life, and of course in your whole, like in other fields of your life, but still.
But we have parents that don't want to talk to their kids about that.
Yeah, that's why it's really good that the school wants to have this.
Well, it's illegal. It's illegal in some states of America to talk about sex in class, so that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think of course it's a huge taboo in some places, but I think it's not only about sex and stuff, it's also about health, because sexual education is not about teaching people like sexual positions or masturbation, as we heard in France. Like one of the secretary of state wanted to like have sexual education since like primary school, like when you're like 6 or something. And she was like, yeah, we will adapt the class depending on the student's age. And I think it was a good idea. And many people were like, yeah, she's gonna like help people being pedophile and teach our children how to masturbate in class and stuff, which is clearly not the point. And of course, this was a minority of people saying that, but still, we could hear them. And I think it's not about that. It's just first about like explaining what it is, so it's not dirty and it's completely fine. And it's also fine to like not want to have sex, and what is consent, like someone shouldn't to touch you if you don't want to. And yeah, it's also about health, because if you don't teach people that they have to like have safe sex and stuff, like you can have early pregnancies and you can have like all this
We were
diseases
taught
and
that.
stuff.
Like we were given that, like STDs. We put a
When
when I was in high school, like we put a condom on a banana.
yeah, but most people start their like sexual life before high school. Like I mean, not most people, but some people do.
Yeah.
And they don't have any information.
Yeah, but that's a small percentage of people.
But still,
Yeah.
it's important.
And on like what's depicted in like pornography, whether or not that translates to what happens in real life. Like in Japan, they have a lot of VR porn that's got sexual fantasies around women that look underage, like girls that look underage, and rape fantasies. Now, it's really hard to track whether or not that translates to higher prevalence of rape in Japan, because the statistics on that are underreported, and in every country, because women might not feel comfortable to speak out about being raped because of the consequences.
Yeah, because they have no support. Basically.
Yeah, and what's that book I'm reading? Infidel. Yeah.
I'm still reading it.
Yeah, Ayaan Hirsi Ali. Yeah, she's like in Islam, in that culture, if you're raped as a woman, it's your fault. You should have been smarter. You shouldn't have been raped. So you can't speak out.
But I think it's not only about religion; it's just about rape culture.
Yeah.
Like.
But anyway, it's hard to tell whether or not what's depicted in pornography, which is just fake and potentially harmless, whether that makes people act on those ideas, those fantasies. And I think maybe it would.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, like to some extent, I'm like, by essence, a fantasy is a fantasy. So as long as it stays a fantasy and it doesn't harm anyone around you, it's fine. But of course, you can put them in practice. But I guess it just depends on the fantasy. I don't know. I think it's a bit complex. But actually, for the whole thing about underage girls, I don't think it's only important, because I mean, even in real life, I mean, it's slightly different, but still, I mean, there's still an issue. Like when you're a girl, like I mean, as long as you're a girl and you're walking down the street, you can be like 11 or like 25 or even older, and you can still be harassed. So, and I mean, it might not be systemic and just a coincidence, but I was talking to a bunch of people